It's Thursday night, the House isn't even in session, and 78% of the federal government is about to run out of money in less than 24 hours. The Senate's stuck. Democrats won't vote yes, Republicans are split. And here's the wildest part. The people who need to fix this, they're not even in town. Stay with me, because this shutdown drama is just getting started.
Of this battle, congressional correspondent Bill Melugin, it all up close, reporting live from Hill. Hi, Bill. What's the latest?
Yeah, Martha, good afternoon to you. The Senate really has its back to the wall right now. That's because Senate Democrats are just not going to vote for this package of 6 government funding bills, which includes DHS. But if they make any changes to that package, it then gets bounced back to the House. And Martha, the House isn't even here. So that's obviously a problem. Why? 78% of the government spending is going to run out of money tomorrow at midnight if this doesn't get figured. Earlier this afternoon, a key vote on this package of 6 funding bills failed in the Senate. Every Democrat voted no, as did 7 Republicans.
Well, I think the House realizes that they made a huge mistake to let this agency go rogue in Minneapolis. We have 2 dead Americans because of it.
Now, some Republicans aren't happy with ongoing negotiations. Democrats have been demanding that the DHS bill be splintered away and reworked with new ICE reform, and they say they will not fund.
The fact is that the wing of the Democrat is in control. And Senator Schumer and his colleagues got to worship the altar and the caring of the.
So the vote happens and it crashes. Every single Democrat votes no. But here's the twist. 7 Republicans join them. This isn't just partisan gridlock anymore. Even within the GOP, there's fracturing. Democrats want the DHS bill split off completely so they can add ICE reforms. Republicans are saying that's a non-starter. And the clock, still ticking toward midnight.
Party wants to fund ICE just like they would defund the police. Therefore, the Democrats have got to vote a bill.
So, Martha, here's the latest. Reportedly, the House and Senate Democrats are working on a deal that would see that DHS bill splintered off from the pack of other 5 funding bills, which they say have broad bipartisan support and can pass easily. So what they would do is pass those 5 bills, then use called a continuing resolution, a short CR, to fund DHS, negotiate ICE. But, Martha, the problem with this, again, changes things. It would have to the House. The House isn't here. So that motion would still cause a partial shutdown starting tomorrow at midnight. We'll send it back.
All right, we're going to ask the House Minority, Hakeem Jeffries, what his plan is on the House side. Bill, thank you very much. Bill Melugin. So President opening his first cabinet meeting of 2020 is talking about the potential shutdown, the economy, the issue that voters want to see as the top priority as they look at what they want the government to focus on. Our new polling. Listen to this.
I think we're going to have an amazing, incredible year. Hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. We're getting close. We're now less than $2 in many areas, $2.10 a gallon average. Grocery prices, airfares, hotels, comments, and rent prices are coming down very fast. And you know the word affordability.
Wait, did he just say, hopefully we will have a shutdown? Yeah, he did. Trump's opening his first cabinet meeting of 2026. Government's about to shut down, and he's talking about wanting to avoid it while pivoting straight to gas prices. $2.30 per gallon average, he says. Grocery prices dropping. And then he throws this jab. Democrats aren't even talking about affordability anymore because they're getting beaten on it. Classic Trump move. Acknowledge the crisis, then shift the conversation.
Issued by the Democrats anymore. Now they're going other things because they're getting beaten on affordability.
Interesting. So our panel is here. David Asman, business anchor, Lisa Boothe, host Truth with Lisa Boothe, and a political analyst, and Robert Wolf, former advisor to President Obama, Third Advisor's founder, and Fox News contributor, to have all of you here. Robert, let me start with you. And, you know, we want to talk about the economy on the whole, but just a take here on where Democrats are getting in on this issue, and also on the House side. What do you think they're pushing here?
Yeah, so one, I have never really supported a government down. So I've been on this show for 9 years. I'm not going to start today. I think if we can do what the president invert a shutdown by maybe the 5 appropriation bills and doing a continuing resolution, hopefully a very short period on ICE. I don't think defunding ICE, I do. $85 billion seems an extraordinary amount of money in the FBI, more than the CIA. Being said, I think we just have to make sure we understand the rules of the road. And that's clear why the president was smart today, pivot from ICE to the economy, because I'm seeing it.
Get into the details on that in just a moment. Lisa Boothe, let's put up number one. This is the Fox poll. Independent voters say the president is not spending enough time on the economy.
Here's where it gets interesting. 83% of independents say Trump needs to focus more on the economy. Lisa Boothe jumps in and says he already is. Voters just aren't hearing it. She lists it out. 2 wars he inherited, open borders for 4 years, high inflation from the Biden administration. Her argument, Trump's doing the work, but the message isn't breaking through. And that's why he's hitting the campaign trail again, trying to connect those dots for people.
As an issue, 83% of independent voters want to see more on the economy. Your take?
Well, I think he is not hearing about it. He walked in to that he had to clean up from the Biden administration. He's into 2 wars raging around both in the Middle East and also in Europe to address. He had to address the open borders that we saw for 4 years, which is why he needs more funding and why they're having to address the problems that Joe Biden created. And he had to walk into high inflation to, Biden not being able to do his job. So that's what he's up against. I think voters are just not hearing about it, which is the thing for him to do is what he's doing. It's going out to hit the campaign trail, let the voters know what the economy looks like, to let voters know that we had massive economic growth in the 3rd quarter, that real wages are increasing, particularly for blue collar workers, that inflation is down, that he's doing work to make their lives better. They need to hear it, and he's done this successfully before, even up against an antagonistic like he did during the presidential election.
But, it's interesting, even the Fed, and, we know they don't get along, but he came out and talked about how strong the economy is.
The economy has once again prized us with its strength. Because filling out, surveys sound really negative, and then spending. So there's been a disconnect for some time. Downbeat surveys.
Now, this is wild. Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, who Trump constantly goes after, comes out and basically agrees with him. People are telling surveys they feel terrible about the economy, but then they're out there buying stuff. Durable goods sales up 5.3% when experts predicted 3.2%. People are buying refrigerators, dishwashers, stuff that lasts. Powell admits the economy keeps surprising them with its strength. Actions versus words.
Surveys, reasonably good spending data.
He sounds like Donald Trump. I was amazed. Not is he admitting? By the way, the
Except
Fed
part where he doesn't want the rates to go lower.
Yeah, but the Fed said in September that we were going to have 1.6% growth rate. It's over 4%.
That's incredible.
And it's just booming. And the other thing that Powell said, you didn't have everything, but I'll mention it, is that inflation under control. He said, and I'm being him here now, he said all of the market-based surveys and the other surveys show short-term inflation expectations are way down. His terms, long-term as well. So we've got low inflation, the best of both worlds, but we have consumer sentiment way low. Nevertheless, those who focus so on the way people feel when these surveyors up and say, how do you feel about things? A lot of people say, not too well because I could be doing better. But when it comes to durable goods, that stuff that people buy that lasts a time, we had a record of durable goods being sold. In the last print was up 5.3%. We were expected to be up 3.2%, almost double the amount of goods. People put their money on things they believe in. Talk to a surveyor, they may not be as, but people are putting their money on a belief in long-term economic growth.
And people are buying.
Right? The Fed projected 1.6% growth back in September. We're sitting at over 4%. That's not a small miss. That's massively underestimating what's happening. Inflation expectations are way down, according to Powell. So you've got strong growth and low inflation at the same time, which should be great news. But consumer sentiment is still in the basement. The panel's arguing about whether people vote based on how they feel or what they're actually doing with their money.
Refrigerators and dishwashers and
now how they vote,
washer dryers,
I don't know.
All stuff. Robert, this is David Plott speaking on the Pod Save America podcast about what he sees Democrats and the economy as big questions.
They're still hanging from Biden, both him running and people's view that he mishandled the economy. I've seen focus groups where they kind of say, listen, the Democrats seem like taxes we pay, they just kind of their money to spend. They don't have any criticism of government. They're very concerned about Trump and MAGA, the economy. But, they're not sure that we're the remedy.
What do you say to that, Robert?
Yeah, David Plouffe's a really sharp guy, a good friend, and the glass can either be half full or half empty. Disrespect, the economy is not booming. There are parts that are doing well with coming in.
What is booming?
Let me just, if I can just finish. Manufacturing lost 100,000 jobs last year. Capital goods have had issue. I love the idea of foreign investment, but we haven't built it yet. If you look at electricity prices, natural gas prices, you look at parts of grocery prices, the idea of across-the-board tariffs have not worked. And that he's going back and doing more of the aspect to it. The only other thing I say is we now have some of our allies, Canada, the EU, South Korea.
David Axelrod, Obama's guy, is running focus groups and hearing Democrats have a perception problem. Voters see them as people who think tax money is theirs to spend freely. They don't take criticism of government well. There's still this Biden hangover, people feeling like he mishandled the economy. Axelrod's basically admitting Democrats are concerned about Trump and MAGA, but don't have a clear answer yet.
Now cutting deals with India and China. So I certainly hope 26 is booming and we have low inflation and 5% growth, but it's not there.
Yeah, we'll see how long they decide that doing deals with China is a good idea. We are putting troops in Greenland. It feels like an emotional move. Lisa?
Well, do you think the tariffs presented a challenge in the sense of, Trump took over responsibility for the economy on liberation, and tariffs are difficult to explain to the American people? But the apocalyptic claims to bear out, and if anything, we're seeing, record tariff revenue country, and there's a lot of positives as well. John McLaughlin, former for President Trump, did a survey last month that once voters were informed economic gains I mentioned previously, that those who viewed the economy as positively increased by 25.
Good point.
So I think once that connection with voters, which he's going to do over these next few months, those numbers will.
And it's worth pointing out.
Can I just quick thing on energy,
yes,
which is that it's whether you're in a red state or blue state.
Right.
Red states' energy costs are about
way down. Yeah.
No, excuse me, down. The blue states are about twice what states are now. So Massachusetts have about 55 to 70% greater energy costs than the red states.
That made me saw in Iowa yesterday. The president, someone who said that they were like $1.89 or something like that in Iowa. That's why you're seeing such a migration from places like New York and New Jersey and California.
Robert Wolf pushes back hard. He says the economy isn't booming. Manufacturing lost 100,000 jobs. Electricity prices, natural gas, parts of grocery prices still hurt people. And the tariffs. He says they haven't worked, which is why Trump's adjusting the approach. Wolf also points out that Canada, the EU, South Korea are now cutting deals with India and China while we're doing our tariff thing. He hopes for 5% growth and low inflation, but says we're not there yet.
California, you're going to see a very different electoral map come 30 as a result, according to a recent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Always here.
Trump just nominated someone to run the Federal Reserve, and this pick is turning heads. Kevin Warsh is coming in to replace Jerome Powell in May, and there's been serious tension between Trump and Powell over interest rates. This isn't just another government appointment. Whoever runs the Fed controls interest rates, which means they control how expensive your mortgage is, your car loan, everything. So let's break down who this guy is and why it matters.
Meanwhile, President Trump nominated to replace Jerome Powell as the next Fed. This comes after the administration launched a new initiative to address drug addiction.
Alexandria Hoff joins us now with the detail on both stories. Alexandra.
Yeah, it was a busy day yesterday, guys, and this announcement this morning is solidified that the president teased last night. Warsh is somebody that the president known for several years. He served in an economic advisory capacity during his first term. He's now been nominated by to succeed Jerome Powell. His term ends in May. We all know the back and forth there. Some of the frustration the president with Powell when it comes to interest rates. I posted this on Truth Social. I'm pleased to announce I've nominated Kevin Warsh, chairman of the board of governors for the federal system. He goes around to explain a bit about his background there. He also says, I've known Kevin for a long period of time. I have no doubt he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best of everything else. He is central casting, and he will never let you down. So the president, he did mention that last night he was at a fair for the First Lady's new documentary, Melania. But yesterday wasn't busy because he also signed an executive order, launched an initiative called the Great American Recovery. It's going to work to advise federal agents where to direct grant money to help fight addiction. Since President Trump's return to office, the CDC has said there's been a 20+% drop in fatal overdoses. The president says there is still work to do.
Today I'm signing a historic executive order to combat the scourge of addiction and substance abuse. We're taking action to help Americans struggling with forms of addiction so they get the help and the support that they need to themselves from the horrible burden of dependency.
More than 40 million Americans suffer from addiction. 13.8% of the population. Most do not receive treatment. Luck chairs of this new initiative did. HE Secretary RFK Jr. and Catherine Burgum, wife of Interior Secretary Doug Burgum.
Here's something that didn't get much attention. The CDC is reporting overdose deaths dropped more than 20% since Trump took office again. That's a massive number when you're talking about saving lives, but the administration says they're not stopping there. They just launched something called the Great American Recovery to keep pushing that number down. 48 million Americans are dealing with addiction right now. That's almost 1 in 6 people. And get this, most of them never get help. But the 2 people Trump put in charge of fixing this problem, they both fought their own battles with addiction. RFK Jr. was hooked on heroin when he was younger, and Catherine Burgum struggled with alcohol for 2 decades before getting sober.
Recovery is not an issue, it's an economic issue, a workforce issue, family issue, a national security issue. And when we confront addiction with courage and complacency, we reclaim the of our country.
My message is simple: give up hope for recovery. This initiative represents a fundamental shift from reaction to prevention, from fragmentation to coordination, from stigma to science, from term fixes to long-term recovery.
In his early adult, RFK Jr. was addicted to heroin. Burgum suffered from alcohol addiction until she became sober 22 years ago.
Alex Hoff, live for us at the West. Alex, thank you. More to say about the addiction, but can I just say one thing about Kevin Warsh? This is a significant pick, right? This, as President Trump said in the Truth Social, out of central casting. But you look at who is 55 years old, but at 35 years ago, 2006, he became the youngest member elected to the reserve under President Bush. First Trump administration, he was on the short to be a Fed chair. Then thereafter, a consideration for Treasury Secretary. But they, Stanford undergrad, Harvard Law. This is a qualified individual with 20 years of experience in this arena. And I think
this is why these picks matter. RFK Jr. doesn't just know addiction from reading studies, he lived it. Same with Catherine Burgum, who's been sober for 22 years after battling alcohol. When you put people in charge who've actually been through hell and made it out, they understand what works and what doesn't.
When we talk about, those polls we were showing about Democrats on affordability, the president and his advisors, Kevin Hassett, talking about in 2006 a takeoff, and Kevin Warsh is a part of the puzzle.
He almost became the chair.
Yeah.
And then chose Powell. And so now he's back to his original pick. In fact, he's married to the granddaughter of Esther. And she and her sister Erin, who are very well known in the beauty business, they started a company together and became the young billionaire women in the country. So both of them, husband and what a team, dynamic couple.
Another dynamic.
Let's talk about Kevin Warsh for a second. This guy became the youngest Federal Reserve member ever at 35 years old back in 2006 under Bush. Stanford undergrad, Harvard Law, 20 years of experience dealing with the economy at the highest levels. Trump almost picked him the first time around before going with Powell instead. Now he's circling back to his original choice.
A couple would be Doug Burgum, Interior Secretary, and Catherine Burgum, who is helping the White House work on an issue that is very, very near and dear to a lot of families. Addiction and the struggle that so many millions of Americans go through and have members who go through and children who go through. Rachel Campos Duffy interviewed Catherine Burgum earlier this year on her own personal struggle. Here's a bit of that.
You struggled with addiction and now you're paying it forward through your organization.
Yeah, that's right. As First Lady of North Dakota, I spent 8 years trying to eliminate the stigma of the disease of addiction, the brain disease. So what we did 8 years was just encouraged to talk about it.
And here's a wild detail. Walsh is married to Estee Lauder's granddaughter, who became one of the youngest female billionaires in the country, along with her sister. You've got economic expertise meeting business empire. These are the kinds of connections that matter when you're trying to steer the economy.
Talk about how it's impacted their lives. Now, over 100 million people across our nation impacted negatively by the addiction. That's over half the nation. So we need to do something about it. So that's what I'm working on now, and that's my passion. And I've a gift that I'm paying forward. It is something that's really to me, so I'm grateful. I love that we have the head of health services who really understands and has lived experiences.
She said that she started to drink in high school, and then she was a blackout. She said she was a blackout during the very beginning, always struggled with it 20 years, tried to stop, and then would go back to it. So she talks about that struggle and that process, and how one day she just decided to go out on a, and she said, I did faith. I didn't believe in, I just religious. She said, I went out and I just said, if there's someone up there, help me. And she hasn't had a drink since.
And we have her coming.
Catherine Burgum just said 190 million Americans have been negatively impacted by addiction. That's more than half the country. Even if you're not personally struggling, someone in your family probably is, or you know someone who lost somebody to it. This isn't some fringe issue anymore.